Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cosmic Metamorphosis. My name is Kat. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It's been a few weeks. I am so sorry. I have not gotten much sleep at all. If you can see, like literally the bags are like down to here. Um, it's either because I've been having like neuropathy pains in my foot, in my leg, or my dog, my Alaskan Malamute, she has Cushing's disease and she cries a lot of the time. She whimpers like all night long because right now she's having a really hard time getting up and down the stairs. So she cries a lot um, all night long, and it keeps me up because I'm a very light sleeper. Um, So I haven't been getting a lot of sleep. I haven't been able to do my astral travels, my dream time. I did get a couple of really good sort of. I don't remember the dreams I've had. I know I've been dreaming, but not too much. But I did. I had a dream about a week ago. It was kind of not really a dream. It's more like a vision because I was in between sleep and being awake, and um, I just saw a woman standing there. It was like watching TV, but it was this woman in front of me with um, like shoulder sort of brown hair. She had a skirt on. All I can remember, like a blouse and a skirt. And as I was watching her, the whole bottom half of her was disappearing. It was disappearing. And as I was seeing this, and I saw other people, but I was mainly focused on her, but these people were disappearing, parts of them. So I was thinking to myself as this is happening, oh my gosh, like they're starting to disappear. People are going to start to disappear. We're fading in and out. Like our frequency is raising, and we're doing it. We're doing it. So I was really excited about that. And then I mentioned me having this dream where I was sort of in a stasis tube, and I was like looking at myself, looking back at myself on the floor, even though like I didn't have the gray hair when I was on the floor. It was, I was younger. But it was me, and I was in this stasis tube, and I had noticed that, you know, we noticed each other, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, she noticed. Put her back down. Put her back under." And so anyway, I had a quick flash of a vision. I remember a man like staring at me through the glass. He had glasses on, dark hair, short, um, kind of just a little bit like a shadow kind of on his beard. But I remember seeing like sort of like a computer screen. There was like green on it. So it was like me looking out of the stasis tube, but noticing someone was looking at me, and I could see the computer screen in front of me. So it was that was really wild too. So anyway, I wanted to show you a few things that I bought before we get into today. We're going to do Alex Collier's webinar number 179 from March 24th of 2023, and today is April 4th. Um, so yeah, I'm a few weeks behind, but I went to a couple of rock and gem shows over the past couple weekends, and I got a few things. Finally got me some little angels and some more crystals. I got a Lemurian crystal. Um, but I went to this art festival that we have in town every spring, and oh my gosh, I have to show you some of the things that I bought. Hi, Amber. So one of them was this beautiful baby. Look at that. Had to buy some art prints. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm like so into like moths right now. Moths and greenery and mushrooms and Like I'm such an earthy person, and anything earthy like attracts my attention. This is called Ancestral Memories, and this artist's name, her name is Crystal Dawn, and she has some fabulous, fabulous paintings. She's got some coyotes and um, rabbits and ravens and moons and owls and oh my gosh, but she had so many good ones I didn't know what to choose, but this I have to put in a frame. I absolutely love it. um so I got that. And then there's a local artist, her name's Autumn Cole, and she did these. I already put in frames. These are all my lovely. So she did this one. You can see it. It's the two towers from Lord of the Rings. I thought it was like I thought it was a photo at first. She has such detail in her drawings. I wish I could show that to you better, but I will put the links to these artists in the description below so you can see if you like anything. She had Harry Potter stuff. Um, and one of my other favorites was the Narnia. Oh my God, look at she had the Narnia. It's just fabulous. You can't see the detail on this computer screen, but it's just I had to get it. I was like, oh my God. So I got that one too. And then there was a really cool vendor. He's there every year, and they cut things out of metal, and they're supposed to look like antiqued and old. But look at, I got this tree of life. Isn't that cool? Oh my God. I was like, I gotta get a tree of life. This was only $24. I didn't think that was bad at all. And those prints were like $20 a piece. So I didn't think that was bad at all. But they had all kinds of stuff. They had like garden trellises and little garden stakes. They had dragons, the tree of life. They had owls, I want to say. They had all kinds of different, they had planets and moons. They had lanterns that you could put lights inside and it would light up with either like a forest scene with like pine trees and deer. And then they had one with planets and stars and oh my gosh. So I will try and put their links down here if you're interested in any of their stuff because they're really, really reasonable too. So, anyway, oh my gosh, it is hot today here in Idaho. Um, it was about 90 over the weekend and then it dipped back down. It is the strangest weather right now, so you can't tell me we don't have weather modification because it went from like 90 degrees and then it jumped back down to like 10 degrees less the next day. And then like yesterday it was like probably 75. Today it's back up to 80 something degrees, probably high 80s. And then by tomorrow and the rest of the week, it's supposed to be back down in the 60s. The hell? The hell? So it's crazy. It's really crazy right now. So, oh, and then, oh, yes, yes, yes. I got these earrings. I had to. They were just so cute. You can see that? They're diamond cut feathers. So there's a guy that does pewter jewelry, and he has a ton of hair clips, um, all diamond cut. And he's only got a Facebook page that he sells off of, but he has lots of like jewelry and pendants and little pewter statues and things for your hair. Um, yeah, really cool stuff. So I will put those links below. All right. So that's the other thing too. I haven't been sleeping well because of hot flashes. Oh my God. With all this solar activity, you guys, I'm back to getting those hot flashes, those extreme hot flashes. Like, it's not even just me. My daughter was having them too. Like, waking up just drenched in sweat. And I'm like, okay, it's not just because I'm old. It's, it's something's going on. Something big time is going on. So, yeah, lots of things changing. Oh my gosh, lots of energies right now. It's all over the place. I feel like it's all over the place. I'm finding it very hard to stay grounded at times. So, anyway, I'm going to shut my mouth and we're going to get on with Alex Collier's webinar 179, March 24th of 2023. Alex says, "Hi everyone, thank you for being here." He says, it's been an interesting couple of weeks, and let me just share something with you. Beginning of the week, he says, I was online and I got a notification from Microsoft Security that my Ivanhoe 1818 account had been breached in Spain. He said, so there was some scrambling. He says, I know they got my contact list. So if you should get very strange, weird emails from that particular email, Ivanhoe1818 at live.com, he says, it's not me. I rarely don't even use that any longer, he says, and it was more of an archive than anything. He says, but I'm using Galahad specifically, just to give you a heads up, all right, on that. Plus, I lost a phone. He says, it just died, and there's some transitioning still going. So I don't have everyone's phone numbers moved over yet. By now it's April, he should, huh? Let me increase my sound. Okay. It says these things are all a pain in the ass to deal with. It says so that's some of the up-to-date stuff. He says we're gonna get to prepare for movement at the end of current stat. He says there's an awful lot going on with current stat, and there are some things y'all need to be aware of. I know there's people out there sharing information. There's a great deal of information being shared out there. I also know there's a lot of people under a great deal of stress, and we're all doing the very best we can to maintain some kind of rhythm in our lives that is systematic to who we are and our frequency and how we're living our lives. He says we like consistency. We like a routine. Most of us do. And there are a lot of things that are, he says, I liken it to taking a rug outside and then shaking it. Says to get the dust, cat hairs, the dog hairs, the bits of pizza crust, he says, and he laughs. If you have kids, he says, then you know what I'm talking about. Don't I know? Or cereal, and you're just shaking it. He says, trying to get everything off the rug. He says, well, that's kind of beginning right now for all of us around the world, is that shaking of the rug. Now, because of that, a lot of people are getting very stressed out, and there's a great deal of transference of anger, frustration, emotion onto others. I see it in the chat. He says, I get it. He says, others get it. He says, just be mindful, if you would, please. He says that we're all here for the same reason. We all share a great deal of commonality. We share a lot of the same interests. We may not agree on opinions or solutions or what data may or may not represent to us. But the bottom line in the end is we all want the same thing. That's sovereignty, peace, to be left alone, and to be the best version of ourselves we can be. Absolutely, right? He's right. So please be mindful of that, he says, when you get on the chat or something when you decide to tear someone a new asshole, he says, and he said that, please be mindful of that because it's going to come back to you. You get what you put out. That's just the law. That's how it works. What you put out, you get back. So be mindful of that. And you're just going to get, or you're just going to get canceled off the Knights of Terra or wherever you are. You're just going to get canceled. And then you'll be talking to the wall, he says, or that person in the mirror. So please, we're all very much in the same place with all the changes. He says, now, I have some good news, bad news. He laughs. He says, okay. But ultimately, it's all good news. He says, but, well, I'll just get to it. He says, the Rothschild Central Bank cartel is coming down. This you know, and in many of the Western countries, there is a very slow demolition of the central bank and the financial system going on in these countries. The United States is no exception. Now, when Khufu, I'm just going to say, first started and they decided the government or the Federal Reserve decided that they were going to kick in all these trillions of dollars, or should I say, loan trillions of dollars to the citizens of these countries in the form of payments and handouts. There's never a handout. It says what they did is they took the liquidity out of the banks, the large banks, the regional banks, and smaller banks. They took all the liquidity out and said you no longer have to have any reserve. You can loan it all out, and most of the banks did that. And now what's happening is the Fed is in a repo mode. They're calling in the notes. So whatever assets that bank owns, the Fed is trying to get their hands on it. Now, the Fed has been taken over by the Treasury. It says, I'm a little confused on how that's actually working because there clearly appears to be two heads to the snake, and both heads are doing something completely different. Sounds like my mortgage company. I swear. One hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing, right? Uh, he says, and I'm going to address that in a minute. It's worth noting if you haven't seen it already for yourself. He says the only banks that probably are not going to be dramatically affected by this demolition are your local credit unions. They run on a completely different way and they're local based. That's not to say they won't have hiccups, but their investments are in the community and they operate in a very different way. They have reserves. They know what they're doing. They're they're fiscally a hell of a lot more responsible than the larger banks are because they've had access to, the big banks have had access to funny money. Just funny money. He says, so please print me another $1 million, and they would just get it. Sometimes for zero interest. Yeah, and then we, the people, have to pay that shit back, right? Bullshit. So the credit unions have never operated that way. Speaking of, I went to a local where I used to work last night to get my prescriptions, and my coworker told me they were starting to charge 10 cents for their bags. Okay, those bags are tissue paper thin, and you think it was bad that Walmart was charging 8 cents a bag? This company is charging 10 cents a bag. Our store here is a pilot program to see how well it goes over. I can tell you it's not going to go over well. 10 cents for a tissue paper thin bag. It's ridiculous. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I just had to tell you that. I was like, is that like, that can't just be in Idaho State, because usually it's by the state that does that because of climate reasons or whatever, environmental reasons. No, it's the company. It's the company. So thought that was very interesting. Um, Alex says, now I want you to understand that we have already begun and are basically in a new financial system, which is why you're seeing the demolition of the central bank and the fiat currency banking system. If you go to the United States Debt Clock .org, he says, and you go down to the bottom to the left-hand side where it says currencies, for years and years and years, it said Federal Reserve Note. It no longer says Federal Reserve Note. It says U.S. Treasury Note or dollar. Clue number one. And second is that all the countries around us, with the exception of Canada and the United States, but those in the southern hemisphere and our neighbor to the south, Mexico, have all filled out and submitted applications to join BRICS. Now, the only way you can join BRICS is if you have an asset-backed currency. It's the only way. He says they're not doing fiat. They're not doing paper and ink. And there was something that just came out the other day I saw on Telegram. 23 states here in the U.S. have agreed to go gold and silver backed money. So isn't that interesting? Says, so that's your second clue. Says the paperwork's already submitted. There is no longer in the Federal Reserve System bank-to-bank lending of money or assets. He says that's all been stopped. So whatever liquidity the banks have, that's what they have, and they don't have any. They don't have any. He says, so just prepare yourself for this demolition to begin to gain speed. He says, we're there when the stock market collapses, and there's already a lot of rumblings. In fact, Moody, the financial people, Moody, have already stated and sent out a bulletin to their subscribers that the United States banking system is in a critical state of near collapse. It says, well, the word near, if you were to take that out, it would be completely accurate. It says now, because of the laws that were passed in 2008 and 2009 by the Obama administration, the banks can give themselves a bail-in. In other words, they can take money out of your savings accounts. Bastard. Even though I don't really have, I have $35 in my savings account. I don't have money in my savings account. So right now we're keeping cash at home. So he says they can put an IOU in there, but they can take the actual assets in your savings and your safety deposit box and they can use it. They can take it from you with an IOU. But if the bank collapses and they go out of business, the IOU is worthless. The FDIC isn't going to cover it at all because it simply doesn't have the money, because it's a beast of a central banking system. It says your checking account, however, is secured in that the quantum financial system has in fact mirrored that. Now, there are people that say your savings accounts are also mirrored now, and I've heard that. The problem is I can't get anybody that I know that's in the banking system that's directly connected to the quantum financial system to confirm that to me. He says they've heard it too, but they themselves haven't had it confirmed either. So if that changes, you'll be the first to know. But as of this moment, that's where things are. It says now, so we have two governments. He says we have two presidents, okay? We have the corporate, what's left of it, or the show, says version of it. And then we have the restored republic. We have two presidents. We have a fake president, Biden, who's actually an actor in a mask playing Biden. And then we have the white hat version of the republic, of which clearly appears that Donald Trump is in fact still in charge of that, or should I say, technically, the military is in charge of the republic. So we have that. We also have two banking systems. We have the decaying, slow demolition Federal Reserve System, and then we have the quantum financial system. So we have a lot of things going on, which is why there's so much going on behind the scenes. So you have the alliance, white hats, and then you have what's left of the global cabal, the mafia, the bastards, right? The currency mafia doing what they do. Now, there are minions that are running their programs, and they were given orders a while back. It says, this is what you do. You orchestrate, you initiate all these programs now, and that's what they're doing. There is some thought that they haven't been told the war's lost. It's over for them. It says, but I think they do now. They do know. I think what's happening is that they don't understand, or they realize that there's no tomorrow for them. Good. So, and what I mean by that, there's no deals. Whatever that window was, they chose to ignore it and they didn't know about it. But now that window's closed. They don't have a deal. So they're going to go down no matter what. And the entire weight of this horrific financial system that's enslaved the world is going to land on top of the minions, because those who orchestrated or were in charge of it are more than likely dead. Good. They've been erased, removed from the equation. So all of this will fall on top of the minions, and they know it. And they're scared to death. They're freaking out because they themselves have family. They have children. They have grandchildren who know nothing about what they were truly up to. And for that, I feel sorry for them. But if you have family, you should have been thinking about stuff like that. Okay. It says, so they're scrambling. And what does this mean? It means they're going to do whatever it takes to remain in power, to have some leverage, whatever that is. It also means they're creating not only distractions, but chaos as well. And it's all intentional. So there's going to be more false flags. Should I say that on YouTube? There's going to be more destruction, things of that nature, until the whole thing collapses. And when it does, they will have lost all their wealth and whatever physical wealth they have, such as gold, silver, platinum, etc. Due to executive orders, they will lose all that wealth because of the carnage and the things that they were involved in. Good. They deserve it. That they turned a blind eye to, whether it was the human trafficking, organ harvesting, drug and money laundering, etc., etc., etc. Okay, he says. So that's what's going on right now, which is why you hear the Alliance say one thing, and I'm referring to the White Hats and et al. As the Alliance now, okay? I'm just going to use Alliance to explain the benevolence. And the deep state is, of course, what's being removed. And the reason the demolition is slow is because as you remove one piece, you have to add another. This way you don't leave or create a vacuum of power. It's immediately filled. As you take a dark piece away, you supplement it with a piece of light, okay? It's like stairs, he said, except you're going from high to low. And when you're done, every stair is going to be lit up. It says, and there will be no dark steps. It's gone. So that's what's happening, and it's a big deal. I mean, these banks have been in control for a very, very long time, not just here in the States, all around the world. Okay. And they have penetrated and manipulated and poisoned every level of society. Bastards. It was so bad that even those at the top of the dark side were losing control of their minions because they were just running amok. They were just doing their gig and they just got used to the power. They began to abuse the power. They started creating their own rules, etc., etc., etc. So he says this is very common. This happened during the Roman Empire. The exact same thing, where the whole thing just became so corrupt it eroded from the bottom up. Because the bottom became more corrupt than those at the top. And the Alliance knows this, which is why they're initiated this demolition when they did. He says, so I don't want to hear there's nothing happening, okay? I just don't want to hear it. It's amazing what's going on here. So we have two banking systems, two currencies. We now have the United States note or dollar, United States Treasury dollar. We have the Federal Reserve note, which we call the dollar. So we have two currencies. We have two governments. We have the corporate United States, which has been dismantled, but it is still being allowed to breathe for whatever reason. But it is. And then you have the Republic, which is being operated by the military. And what you are seeing of the corporate United States, this is what's going after Trump. This is what's motivating the hierarchy of the FBI. This is what's motivating the hierarchy of the CIA, the hierarchy of the Department of Justice, okay? It's these dark lords, okay? Very dark Jedi, whatever you want to call them. These dark lords, he says, and they are clinging to power. They are clinging to their lives. They are clinging to everything they've devoted their life to. And not all of them were dark at one point, but they sold out. They compromised, and now they realize they're trapped. They're stuck because those that you see that are trying not to only attack a sitting president, a still sitting president, but duly elected president, but they're doing everything they can to still try and take away the rights and the civil liberties of humanity or the citizens of this particular country of the United States. It says they're grasping for some kind of leverage, but there are no more deals. It says, see, there are no more deals. So as this is going to be taken down, as something happens to the CIA and its funding, I don't know how they're going to dress this, he says, but he says, let's just decide that they say, okay, we're pulling the NGO. We're no longer going to fund and recognize the Central Intelligence Agency. He says, well, the white hats, he says, that are part of the alliance in the CIA will be pulled out and they will be absorbed into another structure that is already in place. This could be Space Force. We don't know. There's a lot of things going on. The same thing with the FBI. They will pull out the legitimate, the honest FBI special agents, and they will probably move them into U.S. Marshal's office or something else that's been created. Could be Defense Intelligence Agency. We don't know. I don't know for sure. And then that system will go down and then be pulled, and it will cease to exist, etc., etc., etc. He likes saying that, etc., etc., etc. Department of Energy, all those things, all those agencies that were created after 1871. It says now. And then we have the Brunson case, which would resolve a lot of this overnight. It says overnight. But we don't know how that's going to play itself out. No one does. And the only ones that do have their cards right here at their chest. They're not showing their cards, and they will not until the cards are played. And that's because this is a war. The enemy is very real. The battle is real. It's very dark. It's very messy, and it's lethal. So understand that. Even though the Alliance is completely in control, I know it doesn't look like that, but they are. As they remove a piece, they add a piece, okay? As they remove a dark step, they add up a light step. It says, and that's what's happening. They're working it down, and we're very close to the floor, to the bottom of this dark cabal. It says, if you were wondering whether Trump was going to be arrested and curb walked, it's not going to happen. Like, we've already seen that, of course, but it says they may try to arrest him, but it'll be virtual. It'll be over a Zoom call, which it wasn't. He actually showed up in New York, so that was surprising. Trump's own private security team has made it perfectly clear you are not going to touch him. You are not going to put cuffs on him. It's just not going to happen. It says now, this whole thing with Stormy is just ridiculous, but it's all fairness. There are other cases against President Trump that in fact make me nervous, that are behind this, and I do not know all the details, and I don't know. Let's just say there is a lot more complicated. It's a lot more complicated, he says. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. It'll be up to you guys to research those if you want. Okay, I'm gonna take my socks off. Sorry, it's getting hot in here. I don't have a ceiling fan either, so it's hot. It says there are chemical spills everywhere. There's all kinds of disasters going on. If you will remember to the environment, we have weather warfare. We have very interesting weather everywhere. Tornadoes in Los Angeles. When does that happen? There's all this weird stuff that's going on. It says 107 inches of snow in Northern California. Okay. He says, if you will recall years ago, I shared with you that that there was this technology that the Benevolent Alliance, he says the Space Alliance had been given, or that would help clean up not only the oceans, but the air and the soil, etc. I shared that. I also shared that we did not have an overabundance of the minerals that would be needed in order to make this happen, so that we could speed up the process and bring the Earth back up to her original standard, or as close as possible. It says, I also shared with you that for that reason, moons were brought into our solar system, both around Saturn and Jupiter, that had an overabundance of these minerals. Some of them also had silver, because silver is now in short supply here on the Earth. And in order to build some of this new technology, this anti-gravity technology, the med beds, the Q-Arc medical beds, all of this type of equipment, silver is going to be needed for the electronics, for the circuitry. So this is there, and using our space fleet, taking some of the equipment from some of the dark aerospace industry, the dark military industrial complex, using those executive orders to retrieve and confiscate that technology, and then converting it for civilian use, civilian corporate use. We could begin the training process of becoming astronauts, going off-world and mining these moons for the minerals that we can then use here on the planet. And by doing it this way, we give the earth a chance to heal herself. In other words, she gets a huge breath of relief. We're not taking from her. We won't need to. So she can begin her healing process, and we can learn to be good stewards of the earth ourselves. If you remember, I've shared some of that. Well, that's going to be very prominent. This is why President Trump was referring to flying cars and things like that. That's why in New Mexico, Texas, Florida is doing one as well. There are plans to build airports for flying vehicles. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes that your media isn't sharing with you, or is not allowed to share with you, because this war isn't over. They're still taking out the minions, and they want to make sure they get them all. Not that they're going to wait until they get the very last one. They need to be able to identify who the minions are and their network. So that all of it comes down. When it comes down, in other words, that they get everybody. So there will be a financial crash. I hear all this terrible stuff, that end of the world as we know it. It's going to be scary. It's going to be confusing, especially to those who are not awake, for those who are not prepared. They're going to be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And that's because they're just not paying attention. The information is out there, but you can't get people to pay attention to it, because based on their mindset, based on their own frequency, they just simply can't see it. They just simply don't see it. And there's nothing we can do about that. You can put it right in front of them and they still won't see it. I see that all the time. They just don't. Put it right in front of their face. Give them proof. And they're like, no, that's fake. No, I don't believe that. Okay. Well, when it happens, I'll say, yeah. See, I said that. Says, so that's unfortunate, but that's what it is. It's not going to be a walk in the park. But for those who are prepared, you will understand what's happening. You will understand why it's happening. And you will have an observer's view, an observer's perspective, that this has to happen. Because if you look at 95% of all the ills in this world, of the darkness, it's all been fueled by the fiat currency system, all of it. And the only reason it's been able to grow to this extent is, one, they found people who were really twisted inside, or were twisted, okay? They were twisted, and they've maintained that perspective or detachment from soul. And the money was there to fuel this detachment from their soul. Excuse me, and get them to focus on material wealth and material power. There was no focus on the spirit or the soul. And of course, if there was focus on the spirit of the soul, no way would things be this bad. No way would they be this bad. What happened was, in these personalities, the ego just became dominant. So there was no presence of soul. It was all ego. And there's no way to ever quench the thirst of an ego once it's running rampant. So we have that. He says it's imperative to realize and to know that the near death experience, he says, I do not believe at this point it's just going to be the financial system. They're going to play out the threat of a nuclear third world war, because that's going to get everyone's attention. And you have to understand that this part of this, the threat of the nuclear war, is the final act of the movie. It's the final act. And it will expose and bring forth the reality that a very small group of people have been controlling and manipulating the world with war for the sole purpose of killing human beings. Bastards. Ugh. Now, our perspective is we go to war to protect our country, to protect our liberties, protect our freedoms. Reality is, this is what we're going to find out, is that every single war was a satanic ritual sacrifice. That's what it was. We didn't know that, but you will. He says that twice, but you will. Now, there's no way nukes are going to be allowed to go off. Just not going to happen, okay? Because it reverberates from third into fourth and into fifth density, which is why everybody freaks, okay? Out there, they freak out too. So it isn't going to happen. They're here. There's no way that the Alliance ships and the Galactic Federation ships, they're going to sit here and let us launch a nuke or nukes and say, well, we had to let this play out. Meanwhile, somewhere in their dimension, all hell has broken loose. He says, no, that's never going to fly. So it's important to note that this is the last act of the movie. No one knows for sure how they're going to come down those last few steps of light because the enemy's real. The enemy is scared and the enemy is lethal. Now, while all this is going on, most of it behind the scenes, you have the population of the surface of the planet really starting to get pissed off, and it's justifiably so. There's corruption everywhere, and it's now visible. The rulers of our countries are belligerent, and they've all been compromised. They knew what they were doing. They went with it because they wanted power. And they didn't only just betray their constituents, they didn't just betray their own countries' constitutions. They didn't only betray the citizens of their countries, they've also betrayed humanity because it will be shown that all of those people did horrible, horrific things, or they intentionally turned a blind eye to these horrible, horrific things in order to maintain power for themselves. This is going to be a huge, huge dark night of the soul for a significant amount of humanity because this is going to be their awakening. When this information comes out, this is going to be their awakening. You mean he's a Satanist? She's a Satanist? They were killing children? They were drinking the blood? They were eating body parts? Boom, says. Their reality is shattered. Okay? Their reality is completely shattered. And I would ask that you have some empathy for these folks when this happens. Says now, I'm bringing this up because we're very, very close. We are very, very close to this. I don't think we have until July. Says this is what a lot of folks are saying. I just don't see it playing out until July. Too much damage can be done. And that was my question too, is like you can't go much further. Like they already say for someone to form a habit, it only takes 2 months, 3 months, and then they're in that habit. We've been in this upside down backwards world of this kufu for the last over 3 years now. So it's really embedded, really, really embedded in people. And it's going to be very hard, very hard. There's already trauma. There's lots of trauma that's been done through this. He says there's talk about a false alien invasion. He says, I really have a hard time with that. I really do, especially since we have Solar Warden, uh, Palladians, the Syrians, the Arcturians, all kinds of starships, says that are here in our solar system, and they're going to participate in an event like this. Said, in my opinion, and if this happens, he says, and they participate in this, then we have a bigger issue. He says, we'll have a much bigger issue. But I just don't see that. I don't see the A's participating in anything like that whatsoever. I just don't. That is not who they are. It's not who they are. So I don't see that happening. I'm just giving you what I see, is my opinion in that. They would not participate in something like that because everyone's checking each other's work, and all the star nations that are here are sending updates, stat updates back to their home worlds and their own individual councils. Okay. So everyone's checking each other's work. Councils are talking to each other behind the scenes. This is a big deal. What's happening here? It is. It's huge. It's huge, you guys. Aren't you excited? Aren't you excited you're here? I have my days too. We all do. We all have our down days, but there are days I get really excited, and I'm so excited to like get on Telegram and be like, "Oh my God, what's going on? Oh my gosh, what's going on?" Some days I have a lot going on, and some days you're just like, "Oh, it's so boring. Nothing's happening. What's the deal?" Right? We're all just like, "Hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up. For God's sakes, hurry up now." Um, I watched Interstellar again the other night. I love that movie, and I had to watch it again. But I mean, okay, we can't imagine. For us, we live in time, so it's really hard to imagine like our lives here on this planet like go by so fast, so fast. And like when he went out into space to find other worlds, like for them to be gone, what was it, 2 hours was 7 years back on Earth. And I was like, oh my God. I mean, can you imagine? That's why out there, like there is no time. That's why they live thousands and thousands and thousands of years, because here that's like thousands of lifetimes for us when it's one lifetime for them. It's just sometimes it's really hard to wrap your mind around that, you know, since we've all had so many lives here. Someday I'll get a past life regression and we'll find out. Um, we'll find out where I've been, right? He says we also have the energies that are hitting this planet, the fourth density, fifth density plasma consciousness frequencies. He says they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I, with the exception of not being able to sleep anymore, I couldn't be more excited about this, because this is literally pulling us, the earth, the surface, humanity, all conscious life in our solar system, by the bootstraps up the elevator to the first floor, um, and then the second floor, and then the ground floor is the third. He says, so the first floor is the fourth, the second floor is the fifth. He said, literally pulling us up, and everybody's involved. Everybody's in different stages. He says, but there is no stopping this evolution of consciousness and physicality. There just isn't. And yet we have all this other stuff going on. But you see all these other things that are going on, these dark pockets of energy, of anger, frustration, fear, terror, all these pockets of energy have to be clear. The light has to penetrate and dissolve all these false realities, all these egos, all this disruption, anger, all these pockets of energy have to be absorbed by light. Oh, come here. It's my Amber. It's my video kitty. She's lost a lot of weight. Poor girl. She's 13, which isn't that old for a cat, but she still plays like a kitten with the rest of the cats. But she has been losing a lot of weight. Poor girl. Huh. Okay. says, so that it all dissipates. And when that happens, everybody is free from all their past. Doesn't mean they don't face it, doesn't mean they don't continue to work on themselves. But once they see the illusion, they're free of the illusion. If you know that it's an illusion, then you don't continue to do it. You just don't. Because the world will change dramatically once the illusions are all gone. And that's where we're at. All this is going on right now. Yeah, so sometimes it's very heavy. There are very heavy days because things are changing so fast. Some days not fast enough, right? Every day, every minute of the day, everywhere. He says it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And he kind of laughed and he says, and the Alliance is doing everything it can to slowly expose this information and the truth. They're throwing a lot of breadcrumbs, English muffins, he says, around for people to find. The English muffins are bigger truths than the crumbs, okay? And of course, the black cats, the dark side of the force, they're doing everything they can to suppress, to censor any type of this information, to buy themselves some time, thinking that it's going to have a different ending, but it's not. It's over for them. It just is. We're just playing it out now, as I've said before, and so have others. He says the movement of spirit and soul has to do with this. In a very, very significant way, it may in fact be the reason ultimately why this is all happening, is that the different soul groups here on the planet from all the different consciousness levels that are here have called this forth. We have come back in time to right a terrible wrong. We are here, those of us who have come back, we are here to call the shift to us. We are calling this entire shift, all of this to us. We call for help. We call the benevolence, okay? Many of the Alliance that are here and the Galactic Federation folks that are here, they're here because we are their family. We are their friends. Bottom line, we are family to them. They're here to help assist. Now, if you look at the galaxy the same way you would look at the Earth, where she's pulling herself up out of a darkness, out of this swamp, and she's working it, and she's working it, and she's straining herself. But there's these dark tentacles of fear and anger and anguish and war and suffering, and she's trying to pull herself out of the swamp. And these dark tentacles of all those things I just mentioned are holding her down because they don't want to let go, because they're feeding off her. They're feeding off of her, and she's trying to detach because she's done with this illusion. She's done. She's finished with it. It's hurting her. She's suffering. So she wants to release from all of this. If you could take that and move that to a galactic level, what would you see is that the fall of the Orion Empire is exactly the same scenario. The release of these smaller star systems and the races that inhabited those, the indigenous peoples in those systems, it's the exact same thing. The galaxy is trying to raise its own frequency and pull out. And these other systems had the same tentacles attached to them. It's the exact same thing. And when he said that, it reminded me, on Nights of Terra, someone had asked about what are some of the shows to watch when you're awakening, or disclosure type of things. So everybody listed their own, I've said in a lot of my videos, I have videos of the movies, of things that you need to watch, like V and the Event and Stargate and all those things, The Giver and But when he was talking about this, getting the tentacles in there, and I mentioned it before, but it's hard to find. But Sci-Fi had a show called Krypton a few years back, and it was about Superman's grandfather. Okay, and it was a really good show. I really liked it, but it definitely it had the AI brain creature, and it was like the liquid black goo graphene and all these tentacles, and he would invade worlds and he would take over and he would assimilate these worlds into him because he wanted control over them. And I'm just like, oh my god, that's Krypton. That's Krypton. Watch Krypton with a K. Krypton. Yeah, so that's a really good series to watch too. I think they only had 2 seasons. Most of the good shows with all the disclosure in it only last 2 seasons at most because they don't want too much truth getting out to you. Um, he says that's why we're here. That's why we're here, is to help with this process. It isn't just for the earth and it isn't just for humanity, though those are absolutely noble deeds and noble aspirations in and of itself. It is also for a much larger purpose. It says, none of you were born and hatched as a soul on this planet. I'll read that again. None of you were born and hatched as a soul on this planet. None of you. All of you come from the top floor, the top steps, and worked your way down to this moment. Some of you are so powerful that there's a portion of you here and there's a portion of you on a higher step. And we're glad you're here. We're glad you're here because this is really important work. It says this frees the entire galaxy. And I said this many, many, many videos back. What's happening here on Earth is the biggest thing that has ever happened anywhere, because what happens here has a ripple effect to every other system out there, to our whole solar system, to our whole galaxy. It doesn't just affect us. So, yes, this frees an entire galaxy. So, this movement of soul, of spirit, the calling, the bringing of this to us, okay? The merging of higher frequencies and a consciousness of a race that wants to be free. They don't know how to express it, they don't know how to say it, they're not even sure what it would look like. But deep inside of themselves, their true essence, they want to be free. That's why we're here. We're here to make that happen, and we're part of that entire movement ourselves because we're sharing the same physicality. It's incredible. He says it's just absolutely incredible. It really is. Because I know that there's a great deal of fascination regarding the extraterrestrials, the A's, the P's, the Arcturans, the Sirens, and all the other groups that are here, the Tau Ceti, etc., all the groups that are here, both light and dark. But out of all those races that are here, the most amazing race is ourselves. Is ourselves. Is ourselves. Because we're a compendium of both light and the dark. We're a compendium. We represent all of it. All of it. Duality, right? Yin yang, black and white, right? And it's going to be really, really great when we get past the first introductions and we're like, okay, so we're not alone. Time to shift perspectives, okay? No more alien worship. We're part of a galactic family. We're part of the soul of Creator, of Source, of the Great Spirit. And the focus turns to ourselves, to building ourselves, rebuilding our humanity, this humanity, and becoming the best version of humanity that we can possibly imagine. And we're going to get help with that through a mentoring process, which I've talked about for years and years and years. But we have to get through this phase that we're in right now, okay? We have to break free of the tentacles, the dark tentacles that have all been attached, or I should say, were born out of a monetary system that was created for the sole intent of enslaving everything on this planet. And I was I've said this before, when I worked at Pier 1 a long time ago, we started getting in because we'd always have owls and we would have pyramids and triangles. And when you go in town and you go to stores and you could see the symbolism everywhere, the skulls, we started getting in the octopus. And I was like, why? Out of any animal, out of the hundreds of thousands of animals on this planet, why would octopus all of a sudden be so popular over the last 6 years? I wonder why. Because the tentacles get in every aspect of our lives. And what do we know about octopus? Their DNA is an alien DNA. It does not match anything on this planet, right? So you've got an alien entity with tentacles in every bit of our lives, of course. Ah, goodness. Okay. It says now, you could say, well, what about nature? Well, who owns the land? The government owns the land. Ranchers own the land, and they would have control of whatever is on the land, okay? Or regulations, state regulations, environmental regulations, federal regulations, UN regulations would be able to position themselves because there's some higher authority to detect what you do with your own land. And we see that everywhere. And if you don't pay your taxes on your land, they just come and take it. And then it's no longer your land. And they will do whatever they want with it. We've also seen that. So I thought it was important to share more of the big picture because there's so much going on that people are not able to focus on the perspective. They're having a harder time stepping back and being the observer because they're in fear about their money, their bank accounts, their food. See what I say? Survival. Okay. Their car payments, Social Security, all of this. That's what I said. That's why America has not taken to the streets like a lot of these other countries because we're so fearful of losing everything. Everything. We have to go to work. We got to get the paycheck so we can pay the bills, so we can feed our kids, so we can pay, the electricity's not shut off, so the heat's not shut off, so that we have cars to drive. We're so in that survival mode. I don't know if we can get out of that unless everything completely comes down. Like, and they're going to have to come right back in. Like you said, when that vacuum hits, like, I guess that was my dream. That was my dream when it was like a vacuum sucking everything up out of the earth. But I wasn't afraid. I was just sitting back against a tree, be like, oh, this is fine. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. We're fine. I was chilled. It was great. So when he says the vacuum and there has to be something immediately taking over that space, yeah. So I think a lot of people, I mean, I myself, yeah, there are times I'm really concerned with, are we going to be left with nothing? Are we going to be living in the street in a tent, with all my animals? And, I just have to step back and ground myself and be like, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It will be okay. It will be okay. So I think I zone out half the time. I think 99% of the time, I'm just not in third density anymore. I'm pretty much, I'm past that fourth. I'm definitely past that lower fourth because I'm like, fuck that. It's too dense. I don't like it. It feels horrible. I'm shifting up, 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 up. I'm ready to go home. think that's why I'm seeing myself through the stasis pod, and I'm like, I'm ready to wake up, and they're like, no, not yet. Not yet. Keep her down, keep her down. It's not yet. Like, we have to have more people. That's how I see it. But um okay, he says, and all of this is being done intentionally to create a field of fear which feeds these dark, damn tentacles that are holding back humanity and the earth from ascending. And we have a responsibility to address the tentacles because it was our energy. It was humanity's energy that fed into this and created this. And it's humanity's responsibility to withdraw your energy from these tentacles and say, go fuck yourself. We're not doing this anymore. We're not buying into it anymore. You no longer have control over humanity. Take a long walk off a short pier. See ya. Okay? I love it. Sometimes he gets pretty feisty. And I realize that there are still a lot of people who get triggered very easily for a lot of different reasons. And you know, there was an old cowboy saying, they may still say it, and it was, well, if you're going to speak your mind, make sure you have a fast horse. And he just laughs. If you're going to speak your mind, make sure you have a fast horse. Okay. Says, I've always tried to have at least one fast horse. He laughed. He says, so I think that's all I have for the moment. He says, look, healing modalities are coming out. New technology is coming out. Med beds are real. They're absolutely real. And I will be talking about that in a very specific way in the next 3 to 4 weeks. Okay? I will be. And if you can separate yourself from the dramas that are going on, if you can get those around you to calm down, if you can explain to them that what we're watching here is in fact a movie. It's a movie about transition. It's a movie about letting go of the past. It's a movie about forgiveness, and it's a movie about healing. And you all know your own audience. You'd have to use your own words. But I know you're a very, very smart group. It says you're very intelligent. You have a really good sense of what's going on. It's sometimes hard to explain and put into words, and even I have a hard time with it, and I still do. I still have to pull out some of my crayons to make this work. But I want to say this to you, and I want to share this with you. There is no failure point here. There just isn't. So whatever else is going on, please put that in your heart and have a recognition that when we get past the dismantling of the matrix, of the disillusionary reality that we have all been living under, when we get past that, all that's left is reality, authenticity, and self-love. That's what's left, and that's everything. That's everything. Reality, authenticity, and self-love. That's everything. You can accomplish anything with those 3 pillars. He says it's going to get dicey. He says they say it's going to get weird, and I'm sure many of you already see it or feel it. I wanted to say it all out loud, okay, because it's important. It's also important for you to know the alliance, which is human, sky brothers and sisters, star nations, boots on the ground, active military, active white hat contractors, speakers, yoga teachers, shamans, healers, all of you who have a heart and an intention to be of service and help humanity. Says the universe is paying attention. The universe knows. Source knows. We don't do this for recognition. We don't do this for zillions with paper, with pictures on it. We do this because we're called to, because we understand. And in the deepest places of ourselves and protecting others, we ourselves remain free. And that's what it's about. He says it's about being free. It's about being free. Okay? Absolutely. That as hard as it is some days, I have to remind myself I came here for a mission, for a reason, to help people. Okay? To try and I'm not very articulate in my words, but that's why I think I kind of I follow Alex because he's not there are very articulate speakers like Sasha Stone or Sherry Divband or there are certain people that are just very articulate in their words and they just know exactly what to say and it just flows out. And there are times like I just don't have that. I don't have that even though I want to tell people. Like I get so excited when I find someone new, when I meet someone new and I get to tell them about all this stuff going on. I'm like, "Hey, did you know? Hey, did you know? Hey, and I love it because I'm a teacher and I'm teaching them things that they never knew. But yeah. I love it. I love it. Okay, so we're going to go on to the questions. Um, First question, I have a friend that works in Antarctica and is home in 3 weeks. He has been told to stay home with pay until after Christmas. I assume this is a sign the EBS is coming. Any thoughts on that? And Alex says, well, that is interesting, isn't it? To stay home till Christmas. So maybe that means go to the grocery store, uh, stay local, but don't jump on an airplane and go anywhere else. Just stay local. He says, well, you know what? That makes sense. And I'll tell you why. Because of the transition of the government, the transition of the financial system, the transition from the knowledge base of the everyday citizen to the actual factual history, says of planet Earth. It makes sense that it would take from tomorrow or 15 minutes from now until Christmas for all that information to be at least laid out for humanity so that we could then go online or to our libraries or wherever, however this is going to work with Starlink, etc. And then we can begin to work of actually doing what we are doing. It could also mean that whatever he is working on or has privy knowledge to. Oh, okay. I did a little note on the side. Sorry. It says it could also mean that whatever he was working on or privy to knowledge, he was basically saying, actually doing what we're doing as far as researching the history of ourselves and diving deep into it. He says, but or he's privy knowledge to or will be mainstream by then, so by Christmas time. So he would be free and released from his NDAs that he's probably signed about the work he was doing down there. Because many of them, even if it's just plumbing, they come back with NDAs for a period of time. And as long as they maintain the NDA, they continue to get paid. And then when the NDA expires, then they have to go look for work. At least I know several people who were down there, that's how their contract released them, was that way. I'm not surprised. He says, I'm not at all surprised. That's good news. Thank you. That gives us some sort of time frame. See what I was saying? When he said that, and I was like, that's it. Okay. We're starting to see stuff this week about Hunter, and they're going to indict Hunter. So that stuff's starting to hit the mainstream, but I'm like, it's just, we're in the first week of May. So I don't see tribunals in June or July. I will be surprised. And if I'm wrong, then I'm going to say I'm wrong, but I don't feel stuff hitting until the end of the year. Like I said, fall time towards the end of the year. Um, that's where I see a lot. We're gonna have a crazy fall, guys. I think we're gonna have a really, really, really crazy fall. And then the movie Sound of Freedom coming out about the child trafficking, that's gonna blow people's minds. So, next question. You had mentioned before about a possible Andromedan plan to download our memories to us via our dreams. I think that's what most of mine are, cellular memories, in which we would remember who we are and our past lives. Is this option still on the table? Thank you for everything. Oh, that's what a lot of my dreams are. That are like memories. They're like memories for me. He says, yes, it is. It is absolutely on the table. And JP, his host, said, it would be much handier. And Alex says, well, it would. It would give you a working reference, a tangible working reference of what you're here for and why you're here. And then you can line up everything after that and say, okay, I get this. And you could throw away the walking stick and you'd be able to see clairvoyantly all the moves you need to make in order to achieve your certain mission here and then to take yourself home. So, yeah, it's definitely on the table. Many of us are still getting the downloads. They may not be that one, but we are getting the downloads. Many of us are. Speaking for myself, I'd like to get some sleep. Me too. I really want to get some sleep. Thing is, everybody else gets to close their doors in my house at night to sleep so that the animals don't go in. But you know what? I guess because of my frequency's higher, all the animals want to be in my room. I have Nanook on my bed next to me. Sika's usually on the floor because she can't jump on the bed or she would be up there too. And then the cats come in several times a night. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's horrible. And if I close my door, they'll sit there and paw at the door and wake me up. So it doesn't matter. Even if I close my door, I'm still not going to get any sleep because they're just going to be, let me in. Let me in. I need a vacation. I need a vacation from my life. I so do. I so do. Oh my gosh. Okay, so he says, clairvoyantly all the moves you need to make in order to achieve your certain mission here, and then you take yourself home. Okay. Yeah, okay, we finished that. Sorry. Lost my place. Next question. Does a clone know it's a clone? Is there a blood test to detect or a device that can detect a clone? Are people being cloned as food? Controlled beings or vessels for aggressives to use? Are most of our actors, politicians, top executives clones? Are there more clones out there than we can imagine? Will they all be terminated? See, and I think that's a part of, like, growing up, we were all told in the 80s and 90s, oh my God, it's overpopulation. And like my generation, a lot of us were like, I'm not having kids. I don't want to contribute to overpopulation. So a lot of people didn't. I only have one. I probably would have had more children, but it didn't work out that way. Anyway, Alex says, I'll address the ones I can remember. Have clones been used as a food source? The answer to that is yes. Are there more clones than we're aware of? Yes, there are. So, like I said, like we've been told that Earth is so overpopulated, but how many people are soulless vessels? How many people are clones? How much of humanity is going to be left when they are terminated, when they're no longer existing? I think it might blow our minds. I think it makes you think why Elon Musk was talking about like we're underpopulated. We're so underpopulated that we needed to produce children. So makes you think, huh? Are clones aware they're clones? He says, no, I don't believe they are. Although I've seen a few interviews like Donald Marshall, and then there was like a young rapper kid. Several of them have said that I'm a clone. Spears. God, why can't I think of his name? The super soldier, Max Spears. Yeah, he said he was cloned. And he would talk about in his interviews about how his clone would be at home and he'd go off on a mission or vice versa. Like, so some of them are aware that they are cloned. Um, is there a blood test to tell about a clone? He says, no, there isn't. The only test is their energy field, is their auric field. He said, so Carillion photography is far more advanced than we've been led to believe, um, than has been released to the public. There are spectacles or eyeglasses and other technology where they can pass it through a crowd and they can see who the clones are because their energy field is here, just here around the head and the shoulders. He says it's just here. It's not the entire body because there's no soul present. Okay. The clone's operating on cellular memory, and it could be they're grown a microprocessor, an organic microprocessor, and they have downloaded specific information and memories into that as well. Was that the Island movie where they're clones? They find out they're actually clones, that they're not that real person. Or what's that? Westworld, I think. It says cloning has come a long way. It's actually pretty scary, frankly. And will they be terminated? Yes, yes, they will. How that happens, I simply don't know. It may be the Earth herself does that by jumping frequencies, and they just leave. They're just gone. They collapse. We're not going to have hunting parties. We're not going to do that. The time of killing each other is coming to an end. It has to, or we're never going to survive. Uh, and they're never going to let us out there either. It says, I don't remember the other questions on cloning, but hopefully I've covered it in that response. I don't know if there was a video someone was taking of Johnny Depp coming out of a bar. This was several years ago, and what people thought was Johnny Depp, and like his handlers had him, like he literally fell, boom, forward on the sidewalk, hit his face. I like that can't be a real person. That had to have been a clone, and his handlers like picked him up and put him in the car, and like he just had his head down and he was just doing like this. So people thought he was just drunk. He was so drunk he just literally fell on his face. Like, that was a clone. Johnny Depp had clones. There's pictures of two clones of Johnny Depp right side by side to each other. One's just a tiny bit shorter. It's crazy. It is crazy. Crazy. I wouldn't want a clone of myself. I really wouldn't. Um, okay, and then JP says, and he asked the other question. So JP asked Alex, are some of them actors, politicians, executives, clones? And Alex says, clearly, we know some politicians are. As far as actors, I've heard all the rumors everybody else has. I don't know. I don't know any of the famous people. So I don't know. I think many of the important politicians have clones. I think they're using clones now instead of lookalikes because the lookalikes have their own families. They have their own lives. And if something happens, um, dramatically, it affects their immediate family, etc., etc., etc. Whereas a clone, if they have control of it and program it, it's being instructed for it to do. And therefore, when it goes, the original version, the human version, the soul version of itself remains intact and has its family, etc. I mean, literally, we don't know for a fact that the Donald Trump we see on TV is in fact Donald Trump. There's all kinds of rumors out here, at least in Colorado, that the real Trump's family is in Cheyenne Mountain. I don't know that, he says, but it doesn't go away. The rumors don't go away. And Colorado's not a place that even voted for him. They may in the future, with all the shit that's going on, he says. Hopefully, because I would love to go to Colorado. I need to take a vacation there first. He says, but that's the rumor that persists, that the Trump family is actually insulated in Cheyenne Mountain. So, next question. As we are aware, we have part of our soul here with us and our higher self above. But my question is, what are your feelings for the higher self that has had to sit and watch part of it that's being recycled back hundreds, if not thousands of times by the dark side without our soul here going back to source? Even our higher self must miss, in a way, the missing part. And Alex says, okay, I hear that question, and it's termed in a very ancient vernacular. So you are soul. Your soul is always with you, but your soul is not limited to one dimension. Your soul has the ability to be in different time zones, different dimensions, different realities, all at the same time. Now, the one thing you have in common with your physical body and soul here is your eighth chakra, your physical form, and let's say sixth density, and I'm just making that up to give you an expression, your expression of yourself, which is in sixth density. I don't know the entire system of a sixth density being, but the very top chakra is your portal to source. That is where your soul is constantly getting information and feedback from source. That is, in fact, your connection to source. That is where the energy, the light you exist with comes from source, is that top chakra. Every dimension has that. Every dimension that every physicality that contains soul has that as well. Doesn't matter if it's a parakeet, okay? They are connected to source. The energy that animates it is source. The trees, everything is source, creator, great spirit. And this is why they say consciousness is beyond time, because it is. It's all source. We form a perspective. We narrow our vision into specific physicalities to have an experience. And that's all we've done is taken our consciousness and narrowed it into a very narrow field of physicality so that we can have a physical experience. If we no longer desire to have any physical reality whatsoever, then we would return back to that space where we were with Source, looking at all of Source's creations and dimensions, physical realms and worlds. Every single one of us is a time traveler because technically time does not exist. It's a construct that we use in physical form to have a physical experience. Again, time is a constant. Interstellar, where he goes through the tesseract and then he realizes, communicating with his daughter through the bookshelf, that was her ghost. He was her ghost. And then he realizes that he was like, who made this? Who made this tesseract? And the robot was like, he was like, oh, ourselves. It was ourselves. It was our future selves made this. Future selves. I was like, oh, I get something new every time I watch that movie. Every time. Um, so he says, I clearly see it in my head. I just don't always have the words to actually express it. And this is where Greg Braden comes in because he's so articulate and so brilliant with that kind of work. Dan Winters is another one who can explain this, how we can be in two different realms at the exact same time. because the only expression of time is that which we create for ourselves. The fact that we're here is because we're all in agreement to share this space in a time realm and to create time. I'm sure Elena would have her opinions on this. There's so many other people I know of, I'm forgetting, who could explain this better than I could. We have the ability to just fold space. And here we are. He's like, and here we are, and here we are, and here we are, and here we are. So we're like in different places all at the same time. He says most of this knowledge has been completely kept from us so that we would feel trapped, so that we would be trapped and stuck, because consciously we wouldn't think about those realities. That's why none of this was ever shown to us or taught to us, because the minute that window was open, we'd all figure it out because we're very smart, we're very clever. We would figure that out and we would get out of the window. All of us would figure a way out the window. So they made sure we didn't even know those windows were there. Okay, next question. Can you tell us who your favorite Marvel or DC character is? He says, that's an interesting question. Says, well, growing up it was Superman, but as I got older, I would have to say it would be Iron Man. Um, if I had one of those suits, he says, I'd be busting heads. He said, I would be busting heads. He says, um, I'd be done. I'd, I'd be done. He said, I'd do all the work for the Alliance before they even got here. If I had one of those suits, I would be done with the cleanup before they even got here. I'd be happy to do it and take the karma too. He says, I'd been happy to do it. I know that's crazy, right? But yeah, Iron Man. I just think that's a very interesting, complicated character who, for reasons unknown to himself, always does the right thing once he discovers his humanity, once he's had his epiphany. He just knows the right thing to do. Doesn't know why, he just knows what it is and he always does it, and he does it for all the right reasons. So I can identify with that. I always thought Batman was cool, but I never wanted to be Batman. But I thought he was cool. He had awesome cars. He said he had awesome cars. So there you go. Interesting question. Um, okay, and then he said, JP, you made a comment about power source, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. He says, ladies and gentlemen, lithium batteries are going away. Scientists have developed hemp batteries. Using hemp, they can modify it with something that's proprietary. I can't talk today, sorry. Proprietary. They can now build batteries made of hemp that will last 8 to 12 times longer than any lithium battery in the world today. And they've already done proof of concept. So that's coming. You wanted to throw that in there. So your electric cars will have hemp batteries in them, and that's when it will get interesting, where you can go 2,000-3,000 miles on a charge, one charge. That's when electric cars will get interesting. So I just kind of threw that in there in between questions. Yeah, look at all the things they've held from us. Look at it's just, I think our minds are going to be blown when we find out all the stuff they've hidden from us. I don't think we're going to, I think we might have a moment where we're like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I think so. Next question. Who did the black satellites belong to, and whom do they belong to now? And JP said, I think you meant Black Knights, the Black Knight satellites. And Alex says, oh, I know what he meant. He says they're Anunnaki, Orion. The information that is transmitted from the Black Knights, he says, and I was aware of that at least two in our solar system. One crashed or one was shot down a long, long time ago. It wasn't any of us that did it, but the information was sent to Botes, to a very specific star in Botes. I thought it was Butes, which coincidentally is where Anu and Enlil live. Just a coincidence, right? And he kind of laughs. Just a coincidence, right? Yeah, it's interesting. It's really, really interesting. He says, that's what I can tell you about that. Hotess, that's in Orion, in case you didn't know. He said, okay, and this is the closing. It says, folks, you're the best of the best. You're a compendium, a blend of the best of humanity. I'm so honored to talk with you 3 Fridays a month. Any person who is sharing information realizes that those who he's sharing the information with, the purpose of sharing the information is to give you data, talking points, knowledge so that you can take yourself to the next level, so that you can grow. And in the future, you become the teacher, the mentor. That's how this works. We're all bridges. Okay? We're all bridges, family, for a period of time. And at that time, those who you mentored or taught or spoke to, they become smarter or more knowledgeable. And then they take over the bridge and they take it to a whole new level. And I expect all of that of you, he says. I expect all that of you. And I would want that for all of you because humanity needs all of you so that we can continuously grow and go to the next level, take humanity to whatever destiny it can be. That's what's important. And let's not lose sight of that. That's the mission, is to take humanity to its destiny. And hopefully it's benevolent. Hopefully it's higher consciousness. Hopefully it's just something miraculous and that future generations will be appreciative of everything we have gone through during this time period to not only give them the hope but the promise of an incredible future for all of humanity. Thank you very, very much. Thank you to those who sent me a donation. He says, you have no idea how grateful I am. It so helps. I'm just so honored. God bless. Thank you, Maria, for your donation to me. Cosmic Metamorphosis. I do appreciate it. Um, Thank you so much for watching. If you like this information, give it a thumbs up and share it with friends, family. Yeah, like I said, most of all, this is just Alex's information. It's stuff, 99.9% of what that man says, I totally resonate with. So I want to share it with you guys too. And then I kind of throw in my own experiences. Or opinions on things. So I appreciate you watching. Um, so yeah, go ahead and go to Alex's webpage at www.alexcollier.org or brighteon.com. Alex Collier Official 2. Give him a donation for his work um, and help him and JP and James. Yeah, just give your support for them as well. And everything's gonna be okay. It's the ride's moving fast now. So um, yeah, buckle up. Thank you so much for watching. I love all of you. I will get started on the next webinar. Hopefully it won't take me 2 weeks. Um, so thank you so much. You are all my soul family. I wish I could give you all a great big hug. Hang in there. Hang in there. Just take it day by day. I'm glad it is warming up somewhat now, at least in America, and we could actually get out and put our feet in the grass. The bunnies have started to come out, so yeah, I had a bunny in my backyard last couple nights ago, and that was nice. So, anyway, I love all of you. Try and get some sleep too, some rest. I will try myself. Um, yeah, continue to be the lighthouse and shine your light for those lost ships in the dark sea. So, yeah. So say we all. So say we all. Like in Battlestar Galactica. So say we all. Love all of you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you.